I never thought I'd be sitting in my walk-in closet at 3 a.m., silently crying while clutching financial documents that would change everything. The Cartier watch Donald had given me for our 10th anniversary ticked away on my wrist, each second a reminder of the lies I'd lived through. 15 years of marriage, and it took one careless text message to shatter the perfect life I thought I had. I remember that moment with painful clarity. It was a typical Sunday afternoon, and Donald had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. A message notification popped up from Brooklyn, my best friend since college, my maid of honor, the godmother to our daughter. "Last night was amazing. I miss you already." My hands trembled as I picked up the phone, and suddenly, every late business meeting, every weekend conference, every suspicious credit card charge made sense. Brooklyn had been there for me through everything. My mother's battle with cancer, my struggles with infertility, the early days of building our company. She'd held my hand through 3 miscarriages before we finally had Hazel. Now, looking at the string of intimate messages between her and my husband, I felt my world collapse. But let me back up a bit. I'm Catherine Mitchell, though everyone calls me Kat. I met Donald when we were both fresh out of college. I had inherited my father's struggling real estate development company and was determined to turn it around. Donald was charming, ambitious, and seemed to share my vision. We married within a year, and together, we transformed my father's small business into one of the most successful property development firms in the Northeast. What few people knew was that the company's success was largely due to my inheritance and my business acumen. Donald became the face of Mitchell Properties. He was great with clients and had the kind of confidence that made people trust him instantly. I was content working behind the scenes, managing the finances and making the crucial decisions that kept us growing. I'd always believed we were a team. The confrontation happened on a Friday evening. I'd spent the week quietly gathering evidence, speaking with our lawyers, and preparing myself emotionally. When Donald came home, he found me in his study, calmly reviewing documents. "You're working late," he said, loosening his tie. "Interesting day at the office?" I asked, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Or was lunch with Brooklyn more interesting?" The color drained from his face, but he recovered quickly. That's one thing about Donald. He'd always been good at thinking on his feet. "Kat, I can explain." "How long?" I interrupted, not looking up from the papers. "It's not what you think." "How? Long?" He sighed, running his hands through his salt and pepper hair, the same hair that had started graying prematurely, making him look distinguished and trustworthy. 8 months. 8 months. 8 months of family dinners where Brooklyn would join us, of her helping Hazel with her science projects, of girls' nights where she'd listen to me talk about my marriage while knowing. "I want you to know," he said, his voice taking on that condescending tone I'd grown to recognize over the years, "that this isn't just some fling. Brooklyn and we've fallen in love." I finally looked up at him, my hands steady as I arranged the papers on his desk. "Love? Yes, love. Kat, you have to understand, Brooklyn gets me in a way you never have. She's younger, more vibrant. She supports my ambitions without trying to control everything. You need to face reality. She's better than you in every way." I felt something inside me break and reform, stronger than before. All these years, I'd let him take credit for my success. Let him be the public face while I worked tirelessly behind the scenes. I'd convinced myself it was better this way, that it didn't matter who got the credit as long as we succeeded as a family. "You're right," I said softly, standing up. "I do need to face reality." He looked relieved, probably thinking I was going to accept this situation, maybe even agree to some sort of arrangement. Donald had always been good at getting his way. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about this," he said, reaching for the crystal decanter of whiskey he kept on his desk. "I know it's a lot to process, but all the company's assets are in my name." His hand froze midway to the decanter. "What?" "The house, too. The vacation property in the Hamptons. The apartment in Manhattan. The cars. Everything." I pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. "You signed this prenup 15 years ago. Remember? You were so excited about marrying into a successful family that you barely read it." The look on his face, shock mixed with dawning horror, would have been comical if it wasn't so tragic. In that moment, I saw him clearly for the first time in years. Not as the confident, successful businessman he pretended to be, but as someone who had hitched his wagon to my star and then betrayed me in the worst possible way. "You can't," he sputtered. "I can, and I will." I picked up my purse, suddenly feeling exhausted. "You have until Monday to move out. Your personal belongings will be packed and sent to wherever you choose to stay. I suggest you start looking for an apartment. I hear Brooklyn has a nice place, though it might be a bit cramped compared to what you're used to." As I walked to the door, he called out, his voice a mixture of anger and panic. "You'll regret this, Kat. You need me. The clients trust me. I turned back one last time. "No, Donald. They trust the Mitchell name. My name. You just borrowed it for a while." That night, as I sat in my closet surrounded by the trappings of what I thought was a perfect life, I made a decision. This wouldn't break me. Instead, it would be my liberation. I had built an empire once. I could do it again, this time on my own terms. But first, I had to tell Hazel. Our daughter deserved to hear the truth from me, before the whispers started. And then I would show them exactly what Catherine Mitchell was capable of. As I finally crawled into bed that night, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Brooklyn. "We need to talk. Donald told me everything. Please understand." I turned off my phone without responding. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but for now, I needed to rest. After all, running an empire requires a clear head, and I had plans to make. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of my story. Telling your 17-year-old daughter that her father betrayed not only you, but also involved her godmother, is possibly one of the hardest things a mother can do. I waited until Saturday morning, making Hazel's favorite breakfast. Blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, just like my mother used to make for me when times were tough. The kitchen filled with the familiar scent of comfort food as Hazel wandered in, her dark hair messily tied up in a bun, still in her oversized sleep shirt. She took one look at the pancakes and stopped. "Mom, you only make these when something's wrong. What happened? Where's Dad?" I gestured for her to sit down, my heart pounding. "We need to talk, sweetheart." "Is it about the fighting I heard last night?" She sat down, her green eyes, so like her father's, watching me carefully. I thought I heard Dad leaving late. Taking a deep breath, I began telling her everything. Well, not everything. She didn't need to know all the sordid details, but enough. Enough to understand why her world was about to change. I watched as her face went from confusion to shock to anger. "Aunt Brooklyn?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "But she was here last weekend, helping me with my college applications. She hugged you goodbye. How could she?" I reached across the table to take her hand, but she pulled away, standing up so abruptly her chair scraped against the floor. I can't." She ran from the kitchen, and seconds later, I heard her bedroom door slam. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Brooklyn. I'd received 12 since last night, each one more desperate than the last. I deleted them all without reading them. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I logged into the company's financial systems and began a thorough audit. 3 hours later, Hazel came back downstairs. Her eyes were red, but there was a determination in her stance that reminded me of myself at her age. She sat down across from me at my home office desk. "I sent texts to both of them," she announced. "Told them I never want to speak to them again. Hazel, honey, he's still your father." "No," she cut me off. "A father doesn't do this to his family. And Brooklyn, she was supposed to be your best friend. Our friend." She looked at my laptop screen. "What are you doing?" I hesitated, then decided she was old enough to understand. "I'm protecting our future. Your father may have been the face of Mitchell Properties, but I've always been the one managing the real business. I need to make sure everything is secure before—" My phone rang, displaying Donald's number. I declined the call, but seconds later, an email popped up. "Kat, you're being ridiculous. I just tried to log into the company systems and my access is denied. This childish behavior needs to stop. I have meetings with the Shanghai investors on Monday. How do you expect me to function without access to the files?" Donald? Hazel read the email over my shoulder and let out a sharp laugh that sounded more like a sob. He's really something, isn't he? That he is. I typed a quick response. Donald, I'll handle the Shanghai investors. Your personal items will be delivered to Brooklyn's apartment by 5 p.m. today. Do not attempt to enter any Mitchell Properties buildings. Security has been notified. Catherine Mitchell, CEO, Mitchell Properties. CEO? Hazel asked, raising an eyebrow. It's time I stopped hiding in the shadows, I replied, hitting send. I built this company as much as, no, more than, your father did. It's time everyone knew that. The rest of the weekend passed in a blur of activity. I had security change all the locks, both at home and at the office. I spoke with our lawyers who confirmed what I already knew. The prenup was ironclad, and Donald had no claim to the company assets. I arranged for a moving company to pack up his personal belongings, and I prepared for Monday. But Sunday evening brought an unexpected visitor. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner with Hazel when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Brooklyn standing on our doorstep. Mascara streaked down her face. Don't answer it, Hazel said immediately, her knuckles white as she gripped the kitchen counter. I have to, I replied softly. It's time we heard what she has to say. Mom, no. Trust me, sweetheart. Sometimes you need to face things head on. I walked to the door, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. Through the glass, I could see Brooklyn shifting nervously, adjusting her designer handbag, the one I'd helped Donald pick out for her birthday last year, I realized, with a bitter taste in my mouth. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. She looked terrible. Nothing like the polished, confident woman who'd been my best friend for 20 years. Kat, please, she began. You have to understand. Actually, I don't have to understand anything, I interrupted, keeping my voice level. What I do have to do is protect my daughter and my company. Your company? She laughed, a hint of hysteria in her voice. Kat, be reasonable. Donald built Mitchell Properties into what it is today. You can't just... I think you should leave. Hazel's voice came from behind me, cold and clear. I hadn't heard her approach. Brooklyn's face crumpled. Hazel, sweetie, please, don't call me that. Ever again. Hazel stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with me. You know what the worst part is? Last week, when you were helping me with my personal essay for Columbia, you looked me in the eye and talked about integrity and following your heart. Was that before or after you slept with my dad that day? Brooklyn staggered back as if she'd been slapped. It's not. It's complicated. Actually, I said. It's very simple. You and Donald made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. I started to close the door, then paused. Oh, and Brooklyn, the next time you see Donald, remind him that the board meeting has been moved to Tuesday morning. I'm sure he'll be interested in attending, considering the main agenda item is the appointment of a new public relations director. As I closed the door, I heard her gasp of realization. Donald had always handled our public relations personally. It was how he maintained his image as the face of the company. That was about to change. Hazel turned to me, a glimmer of her old smile playing at her lips. You're kind of badass, Mom. I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. Language, young lady. Sorry, not sorry. She hugged me tighter. What are you going to do about the board meeting? I smiled, thinking of the files I'd discovered during my weekend audit. Let's just say I have a few surprises planned. Your father isn't the only one who knows how to play the game. Later that night, as I prepared for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. Donald and Brooklyn at dinner, looking cozy at what appeared to be an expensive restaurant. The message below read, Thought you should see this. They're at Carlisle's right now, planning something. Be careful. A friend. I saved the photo, added it to my growing file of evidence, and set my alarm for 5 a.m. Tomorrow would be a long day, and I needed to be ready. The real battle was just beginning, and I had 15 years of shadows to step out of. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about what Hazel had said. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was a badass. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what I needed to be. The Mitchell Properties boardroom had always been my father's pride and joy. hand-carved mahogany table, leather chairs, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. I'd spent countless hours here as a child, doing homework while my father conducted meetings. Now, at 8:45 a.m. on Tuesday morning, I sat in his old chair, reviewing my notes one final time. Penelope, my executive assistant for the past decade, entered with my usual morning coffee. Security called. Mr. Mitchell and Ms. Walker just arrived in the lobby. She paused, then added, "Together." I took a sip of coffee, letting its warmth steady me. Right on schedule. How many board members have arrived? All 7 are here, waiting in the conference room down the hall. Mr. Jones from Shanghai is connected via video call. She hesitated. Kat, are you sure about this? I looked up at Penelope, remembering all the late nights we'd worked together. All the times she'd covered for Donald's absences at important meetings. Did you know? I asked quietly. She met my eyes. I suspected, but it wasn't my place. It's okay, I assured her. But I need to know. Are you with me on this? Always have been, always will be. She straightened her blazer. Should I send them in? I nodded, standing to smooth down my charcoal gray suit. Not one of the designer pieces Donald had bought me, but a new one I'd purchased yesterday. New suit, new haircut, new chapter. The board members filed in first, mostly older men who'd known my father, plus 2 women who'd joined more recently. Then came Donald and Brooklyn, him in his usual power suit, her in a conservative black dress that screamed, "I'm professional and trustworthy." The irony wasn't lost on me. "Catherine," Donald said smoothly, moving toward his usual seat at the head of the table. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Please take a seat, Mr. Mitchell," I interrupted, remaining standing. "Not there. The chair to your left will be fine." His face reddened, but with the board watching, he complied. Brooklyn hovered uncertainly by the door. "Ms. Walker, you can wait outside," I said, my voice pleasant but firm. "Actually," Donald cut in, "as our PR director, Brooklyn should—" "Ms. Walker is not and has never been an official employee of Mitchell Properties," I stated, pressing a button on my laptop. The large screen behind me came to life, displaying a series of documents. "She's been receiving consulting fees through a shell company registered to your personal account, Donald. An account, I might add, that's been funded by unauthorized transfers from the company's operational budget." The room went deadly quiet. On the video screen, Mr. Jones leaned forward, his interest clearly piqued. "These are baseless accusations," Donald sputtered, but I could see the panic in his eyes. "Brooklyn, please wait outside," I repeated. This time she practically fled the room. What followed was the most important presentation of my life. For 2 hours, I methodically laid out everything I'd discovered during my weekend audit. The misappropriated funds, the phantom consultancy fees, the inflated expense reports. But more importantly, I showed them what I'd been doing behind the scenes for 15 years. The real estate deals I'd orchestrated, the investments I'd managed, the relationships I'd built while Donald took the credit. The bottom line, I concluded, is that Mitchell Properties needs a change. We need transparency, accountability, and leadership that puts the company's interests first. I'm prepared to offer Mr. Mitchell a generous severance package, provided he signs a non-compete agreement and steps down immediately. "This is ridiculous," Donald exploded, standing up. "I built this company." "Actually," a quiet voice interrupted, "you didn't. It was George Harrison, the oldest board member and my father's best friend." He turned to the others. "I've known Catherine since she was knee-high, watched her learn this business from the ground up. Her father would be proud of her today." He looked at Donald. "You, son, were just along for the ride." The vote was unanimous. By noon, Donald was escorted from the building, his company email already deactivated. I watched from my office window as he and Brooklyn got into his Mercedes, which technically belonged to the company, and drove away. But the day wasn't over. At 2 p.m., I had another meeting, this one with Hazel's college counselor. Because life doesn't stop for corporate drama, and my daughter's future was just as important as any business deal. "You didn't have to come," Hazel said as we walked into the school. "I know you've had a crazy day." "Are you kidding? This is exactly where I need to be." I squeezed her hand. Besides, I think we both deserve some good news today. The counselor, Mrs. Rodriguez, had known our family for years. Her face showed no indication that she'd heard about the morning's events, but in a town this size, I was sure she had. Hazel's applications are very strong, she began, shuffling through some papers. Her grades are excellent, her extracurriculars are impressive, and her personal essay, she paused, smiling. Well, it's one of the most powerful pieces I've read in years. Really? Hazel sat up straighter. Even though I changed it at the last minute? I turned to her, surprised. This was the first I'd heard about this. Yes, Mrs. Rodriguez continued. Your original essay about following in your family's business footsteps was good, but this new one… She picked up a paper. Would you mind if I read a portion? Hazel nodded, and I listened as Mrs. Rodriguez read. Success isn't about maintaining an image or living up to others' expectations. It's about being true to yourself, even when that truth is painful. I learned this from watching my mother, who taught me that real strength isn't about having power, but about how you use it. Sometimes the hardest battles we face aren't against others, but against the stories we've told ourselves about who we're supposed to be. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Hazel reached over and took my hand. Later that evening, as we sat in our kitchen eating takeout Chinese food, a luxury Donald had always frowned upon, my phone buzzed with a text from Penelope. You need to see this. Attached was a link to a local business news website. The headline read, Mitchell Properties announces leadership change. Catherine Mitchell takes the helm. Below, it was a quote from George Harrison. Catherine Mitchell has been the real force behind this company's success for years. It's time everyone knew that. Hazel read the article over my shoulder, then hugged me tight. Mom? I'm proud of us. I hugged her back, thinking of the challenges still ahead. Donald wouldn't go quietly. I knew him too well to believe that. And there would be whispers, rumors, and judgment to face. But for now, in this moment, I felt stronger than I had in years. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Your father would be so proud. And so am I. Coffee soon? Kelly Jones. I stared at the message in shock. Kelly Jones. Mr. Jones's wife and one of the most influential businesswomen in Asia. I'd only met her once, years ago, but I remembered her kindness and quiet strength. Good news? Hazel asked, noticing my expression. I think so, I replied, saving the number. I think this might be the beginning of something interesting. As I went to bed that night, I realized something. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about maintaining appearances or living up to someone else's expectations. Instead, I was excited about tomorrow, about all the tomorrows ahead. Because finally, I was writing my own story. They say success is the best revenge, but nobody tells you how exhausting it can be. 2 weeks after the board meeting, I was drowning in meetings, phone calls, and decisions that needed my immediate attention. The company hadn't imploded without Donald, quite the opposite. But now that I was publicly in charge, everyone wanted a piece of my time. I was reviewing contracts in my office when Penelope rushed in, her usually calm demeanor shaken. Kat, you need to see this. She handed me her tablet, open to a business news website. The headline made my coffee turn sour in my stomach. Former Mitchell Properties executive launches new venture with Chinese investors. The article detailed how Donald had supposedly secured backing from a rival development group in Shanghai, the same group we'd been negotiating with for months. There was a photo of him in Brooklyn at some corporate event, both smiling confidently at the camera. He's using our contacts, Penelope said, stating the obvious. And he's using Brooklyn's connections from her PR work to get to them. I set down the tablet, my mind already racing. Get me Kelly Jones on the phone. It's 3 a.m. in Shanghai. She'll want to take this call. While Penelope worked her magic with the international line, I opened my laptop and began typing an email to our legal team. Donald had signed a non-compete agreement as part of his severance package. If he was trying to poach our Chinese investors, my phone buzzed, a text from Hazel. Mom, people at school are talking. There's stuff about Dad online. I texted back quickly. Don't read the articles. Coming to pick you up after school. Love you. Mrs. Jones is on line 1, Penelope announced. I took a deep breath and picked up the phone. Kelly, I apologize for the early hour. Catherine, her voice was warm despite the hour. I was wondering when you'd call. I assume you've seen the news? Yes. Kelly, I need to know. Is Donald really working with the Liu Group? There was a pause, then a soft chuckle. My dear, did you really think Mr. Jones and I would do business with a man who betrays his family? The Liu Group isn't backing Donald. They're backing you. I sat back in my chair, stunned. I don't understand. The contract you sent last week? It was impressive. Clear, fair, forward-thinking. Donald could never have crafted something like that. We've known for years who the real talent was at Mitchell Properties. Another pause. The news article is, how do you say smoke and mirrors? Donald approached several investors, yes, but no one is taking him seriously. Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by curiosity. Then why allow the article to be published? Sometimes, Catherine, you need to let your opponents believe they have the upper hand. It makes their eventual failure more educational. After finishing the call with Kelly, I sat in my office, thinking about how much I still had to learn about this game. Donald had always handled the public side of things, the networking, the politics. I'd thought it was because he was better at it. Now I wondered if he'd deliberately kept me in the shadows to maintain his own position. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of meetings and decisions. By the time I pulled up to Hazel's school, my head was pounding. She got into the car quietly, her face troubled. Bad day? I asked, pulling away from the curb. Brooklyn's niece Madison cornered me at lunch. Said some pretty nasty things about you. About us. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of things? That you're vindictive. That you've always been jealous of Brooklyn because she's younger and prettier. That Dad only stayed with you for the money. She turned to look at me. Is that true? About the money? I pulled into a parking spot near our favorite ice cream shop. The one Donald always said was too down market for our family's image. Let's talk about this properly. Over giant sundaes, another thing Donald would have disapproved of. I told Hazel the truth. About how I'd met her father when the company was struggling. How he'd seemed so perfect, so aligned with my vision. How I'd fallen for his charm and ambition, believing we were building something together. But here's the thing about money and power, I explained, stirring my melting ice cream. They don't make you happy. They just make it easier to pretend you are. Is that why you never talked about being the one really running things? Partly. I considered my words carefully. I told myself it was better for the company if your father was the public face. He was good at it, and I convinced myself I was happy working behind the scenes. But really, I think I was afraid. You? Afraid? Hazel looked skeptical. Mom, I just watched you take down Dad's whole career with a PowerPoint presentation. I laughed despite myself. Being afraid doesn't mean you can't also be strong. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you've been hiding. Hazel was quiet for a moment, pushing her ice cream around the bowl. I found Brooklyn's old yearbook online today. This was unexpected. Oh? She was on the debate team with Dad in college. They dated before he met you. The spoon clattered from my hand. What? Hazel pulled out her phone, showing me a scanned yearbook page. There they were, Donald and Brooklyn, young and smiling, standing with the debate team. How had I never known this? There's more, Hazel continued. I did some digging. Remember 3 years ago, when Brooklyn's PR firm suddenly got all those big clients? I nodded, beginning to see where this was going. Those clients were all companies that Dad had dealings with. He was sending business her way, building up her firm. Hazel's voice was bitter. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning this, using your money, your connections. Our money, I corrected gently. And Hazel, thank you for telling me, but please stop investigating. This isn't your burden to carry. But I mean it. Focus on school, on your applications, on your friends. Let me handle the rest. Later that night, after Hazel had gone to bed, I sat in my study with a glass of wine, looking at the old photo. Donald and Brooklyn, 25 years ago, their whole lives ahead of them. Had they planned this from the beginning? Had I just been a convenient stepping stone in their long game? My phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. Missing these evening strategy sessions. The company needs both of us, Kat. Let's talk. Jay. I blocked the number without responding. Let him think I was wounded, angry, desperate to prove myself. Let him and Brooklyn believe their little power play with the fake investor news had rattled me. They'd taught me well, after all. Sometimes the best strategy is to let your opponents underestimate you. But as I headed up to bed, I noticed a light under Hazel's door. Knocking softly, I found her at her desk, surrounded by college brochures. "Columbia's still my first choice," she said without looking up. "But I'm also applying to Stanford's business program." Stanford? That's on the other side of the country. She finally looked at me, her expression determined. I think we both need a fresh start, away from all of this." I sat on her bed, understanding washing over me. "You want me to consider expanding the company to the West Coast. The Shanghai deal isn't the only opportunity out there, Mom, and Dad's non-compete agreement only covers the East Coast." My brilliant, strategic daughter. Looking at her now, I saw not just Donald's green eyes, but my father's determination. And something else entirely her own. "Get some sleep," I said, kissing her forehead. "We'll talk about this tomorrow." As I finally lay in my own bed, I smiled, thinking of Kelly Jones's words about letting opponents believe they have the upper hand. Donald and Brooklyn thought they were playing chess. They didn't realize we'd already changed the game. 1 month after the board meeting, I found myself standing in front of my closet mirror, touching up my lipstick before my first major solo presentation. The woman staring back at me looked different from the one who had cried over financial documents just weeks ago. My hair was shorter now, styled in a confident bob that Penelope had convinced me to try. The designer suits Donald had chosen were gone, replaced by pieces that actually felt like me. My phone chimed with a message from Hazel. "Crush it today, Mom. P.S. Columbia interview tomorrow at 2. Don't forget." I smiled, typing back a quick heart emoji. These past few weeks had been transformative for both of us. Hazel had thrown herself into her college applications with renewed determination, while I'd been rebuilding Mitchell Properties from the inside out. Penelope knocked on my office door just as I was gathering my presentation materials. "They're ready for you in the conference room." She paused, then added, "And Kat? There's something you should know. Robert Maxwell is here." My heart skipped a beat. Robert Maxwell was CEO of our biggest competitor, Maxwell Development Group. We'd crossed paths at industry events over the years, but always with Donald running interference. Now here he was, at my biggest presentation since taking control. "He's not on the investor list," I said, checking my tablet. "He called this morning. Said he had a proposal that couldn't wait." Penelope hesitated. "There's more. I overheard him on the phone in the lobby. He was talking to Donald." Of course he was. I took a deep breath, straightened my jacket, and headed for the conference room. Time to show them exactly what Catherine Mitchell could do. The presentation went better than I could have hoped. My plans for expanding into sustainable development and affordable housing initiatives caught the investors' attention. By the time I finished outlining our projected 5-year growth strategy, even Robert Maxwell was leaning forward in his seat. "Impressive work, Catherine," he said during the break, cornering me by the coffee station. "Very different from Donald's usual approach." "That's because it's not Donald's approach," I replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "It's mine. Always has been." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "About that, I had an interesting conversation with your husband recently." "Ex-husband," I corrected. "Right. Well, he shared some concerns about the company's direction. Suggested that perhaps a merger would be in everyone's best interest." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "I'd like you to look this over. It's a very generous offer." I took the envelope without opening it. "And I suppose if I refuse, you'll be backing Donald's new venture?" "Business is business, Catherine. Nothing personal." "You're right." I smiled, channeling every lesson I'd learned from watching Donald operate all these years. Business is business. Which is why you should know that Mitchell Properties just acquired a controlling interest in Riverside Development. The color drained from his face. Riverside was a small but strategic company that Maxwell had been trying to absorb for years. I'd closed the deal yesterday, sworn to secrecy by the board. "That's impossible. their CEO, is retiring, effective immediately. His daughter takes over next week. I paused for effect. She's a brilliant young woman. Reminded me a lot of myself at that age. We had a wonderful conversation about the future of sustainable development in the region. Robert's expression darkened. You've been busy. I have. And Robert, the next time Donald suggests using you as his proxy, remember this moment. Remember who really built Mitchell Properties. I handed the envelope back, unopened. Now, shall we rejoin the others? I believe Penelope has prepared an excellent lunch. The rest of the day passed in a blur of success. The investors were enthusiastic, contracts were signed, and by evening, Mitchell Properties' stock had jumped 12 points. But my favorite moment came when I overheard two board members in the hallway. She's better at this than Donald ever was. She always was. We just never saw it. I was packing up my office when Penelope came in looking troubled. Kat, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you years ago. She sat down, twisting her hands in her lap. 3 years ago, Donald tried to have me fired. Said I was too loyal to you, that I needed to remember who really ran the company. Her voice shook slightly. He offered me a significant bonus to report your activities to him. Your calls, your meetings, everything. I felt the blood drain from my face. Did you? No, but I did something else. I started keeping records. Every questionable decision, every suspicious meeting, every time he took credit for your work. She pulled a USB drive from her pocket. It's all here. I kept it as insurance, in case he ever tried to hurt you or the company. I should have told you sooner. I stared at the small device that contained years of evidence. Does Donald know about this? No. But Brooklyn might suspect. Last week, someone tried to access my personal computer remotely. Our IT team traced it back to her PR firm's network. I sat back, processing this information. Thank you, Penelope, for everything. There's one more thing. She pulled out her phone, showing me a social media post. It was from Brooklyn, posted an hour ago. A throwback photo of her and Donald from their college days, captioned, "Some loves are worth waiting for. Second chances. True love." She's trying to control the narrative, I mused. Make their affair seem romantic rather than calculated. Are you going to respond? I thought about it, then shook my head. No. Let them play their games. We have more important things to focus on. Later that night, as Hazel and I sat in our kitchen sharing Chinese takeout again, it had become our celebration tradition. She asked me something unexpected. Mom, what if I took a gap year? I set down my chopsticks. A gap year? But you've been so focused on starting college right away? I know, but... She hesitated. I've been thinking. You're expanding the company, looking at new markets? Maybe I could help. Learn the business from the ground up, like you did with Grandpa. Hazel, you don't have to... I want to, she interrupted. Not forever, just for a year. I want to understand what you built, what you protected. And, she smiled wryly, I want to be there when Dad realizes just how badly he underestimated us. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw the woman she was becoming. Strong, strategic, compassionate. Everything I'd hoped she'd be and so much more. Okay, I said, but on one condition. What's that? You still apply to colleges. Keep your options open. Because the most important lesson I've learned lately is that it's never too late to change your path. Hazel nodded, then grabbed her phone. Speaking of paths, you should see this. She showed me another social media post, this one from Madison, Brooklyn's niece. It was a long public apology for her behavior at school, ending with, I thought I knew the whole story. I didn't. I'm sorry, Hazel. Your mom is actually kind of amazing. I felt tears prick my eyes, but these were different from the ones I'd shed a month ago. These were tears of pride, of vindication, of hope. My phone buzzed. A message from Kelly Jones. Heard about the Maxwell meeting. Well played. Dinner next week in Shanghai? We have some ideas to discuss. I showed the message to Hazel, who grinned. See? This is why I want to take that gap year. I want a front row seat to your comeback tour. Comeback tour? I laughed. I never went anywhere. No, she agreed. But now everyone else finally sees what I've always known. My mom is a total boss. As we cleaned up dinner, I thought about Penelope's USB drive, about Robert Maxwell's failed power play, about Donald and Brooklyn's attempts to rewrite history. They all thought they knew my story, but they'd only seen what I'd allowed them to see. Now it was time to write a new chapter, on my own terms. And this time, I wouldn't be hiding in anyone's shadow. The Shanghai skyline at night was a symphony of lights and possibilities. Standing in my hotel room on the 48th floor, I couldn't help but think about the last time I'd been here, standing quietly behind Donald while he commanded the room. Now, preparing for tomorrow's meeting with the Liu Group, I felt a strange mix of excitement and nostalgia. "Mom, you're pacing again." Hazel's voice came through my laptop. We were on our nightly video call, a ritual we'd started since I'd left for this 2-week Asia trip. "You've got this." "I know," I sighed, sitting down where she could see me better. "It's just different this time." "Because Dad's not here to take credit?" I smiled at her directness. "Because I found something in the old company files, something about your grandfather." I pulled out the yellowed document I'd discovered while preparing for this trip. It was a letter from my father to Mr. Jones, dated just months before Dad's death. In it, he'd written about his hopes for the company's future in Asia and about his daughter who would one day lead Mitchell Properties to new heights. "He never told me about these plans," I said softly. "All those years I thought I was just maintaining his legacy, but he'd always intended for me to expand it." "Grandpa knew you were a boss before you did," Hazel grinned. Then her expression turned serious. "Mom, something happened at school today." My maternal radar instantly went on alert. "What's wrong?" "Brooklyn came to my college counseling meeting." "She what?" I felt my blood pressure spike. "She said as my godmother she had a right to be there. Mrs. Rodriguez kicked her out, but—" Hazel hesitated. "She left an envelope for you. Said it was about the company's early days. Something you need to know." I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache coming on. "Where's the envelope now?" I shredded it. Hazel's chin lifted defiantly. "Whatever games they're playing, I'm not letting them use me to get to you." Pride swelled in my chest. "That's my girl." After saying goodnight to Hazel, I tried to sleep but found myself restless. Around midnight, I gave up and went down to the hotel's deserted business center. To my surprise, Kelly Jones was there, working on her laptop. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked, gesturing for me to join her. "Too many thoughts." I sat down, accepting the green tea she poured me. "Kelly, can I ask you something? About my father?" She set down her cup, her expression softening. "I wondered when you would ask. Your father was very proud of you, Catherine. He saw in you what Donald tried so hard to diminish. A natural leader. Did you know about his plans for Asian expansion?" "Know about them. I helped write them." She pulled out her tablet, opening a folder of old documents. "Your father and I spent months planning the framework for what you're doing now. He always said Donald was too focused on quick profits to see the bigger picture." I stared at her, pieces falling into place. "Is that why you've been helping me? Because of promises made to my father?" "No, Catherine. I'm helping you because you've proven him right. Everything you've done since taking control, the sustainable development initiatives, the affordable housing projects, the focus on long-term community impact, it's exactly what he envisioned." She paused, then added, "And exactly what Donald fought against." The next morning, armed with this new understanding, I walked into the Liu Group's headquarters with a confidence I'd never felt before. The meeting wasn't just about business deals anymore. It was about fulfilling a legacy I hadn't even known existed. 3 hours later, I emerged with not just the partnership we'd hoped for, but something bigger. The Liu Group wanted to collaborate on a series of sustainable development projects across Asia, using Mitchell Properties' innovative approaches as a model. "Your father would be proud," Mr. Jones said as we signed the preliminary agreements. He always said his daughter would bring Mitchell Properties to Asia. Donald never understood that he wasn't talking about himself as the leader. Back at my hotel, riding high on success, I found an urgent message from Penelope. "Call immediately. Issue with the Riverside merger." My heart sank as she explained. Someone had leaked confidential details about the deal to the press, casting doubt on the valuation and suggesting improper influence. The story was spreading fast, and our stock was already taking a hit. "It had to be Donald," Penelope said. "He's the only one who knew about the regulatory concerns from his time as CEO." I thought about Brooklyn's mysterious envelope, her appearance at Hazel's school. No, it wasn't Donald. It was Brooklyn. She's been gathering information, probably for months. The envelope she tried to give Hazel showing up at the school. She was fishing for reactions, trying to confirm her suspicions about the deal. "What do you want me to do?" I smiled, thinking of the USB drive Penelope had given me. "Remember those records you kept? Time to use them. But first, call George Harrison. Tell him I need an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. My time. And Penelope? Make sure our PR team has copies of every email Donald sent about the Riverside deal while he was CEO, especially the ones where he pushed for a hostile takeover. You're going to turn this around on them?" "No," I said, my voice firm. "I'm going to tell the truth. The whole truth. About Donald's attempts to force Riverside out of business, about how we stopped him, and about how our current deal saves jobs and supports sustainable development. No more shadows, no more hidden agendas." After hanging up, I got another call, this time from Hazel. "Mom, you need to check your email, now." I opened my laptop to find a message from Brooklyn's niece, Madison. Attached were screenshots of text messages between Brooklyn and Donald, discussing their plans to undermine the Riverside deal. "Madison sent them to me first," Hazel explained. "Said she found them on Brooklyn's iPad. Apparently, she's not too happy about her aunt destroying people's lives." I forwarded the screenshots to our legal team, then sat back, thinking. "Hazel, remember how you said you wanted to learn the business from the ground up? Yeah? How would you feel about starting now? We need someone to oversee our new youth housing initiative, making sure our affordable developments include spaces for young people transitioning from foster care. It was your idea, after all." There was a pause, then. "Really? But I'm not qualified. You're compassionate, detail-oriented, and you understand what it means to have your world turned upside down. That's exactly what this project needs." I smiled. "Besides, you can learn the technical stuff. That's what gap years are for, right?" Later that night, as I packed for my next meeting in Singapore, my phone buzzed with a news alert. The headline made me laugh out loud. "Mitchell Properties expands to Asia. Catherine Mitchell carries father's legacy forward." Below it was a quote from Kelly Jones. "Some people build empires for themselves. Others build legacies for future generations. Catherine Mitchell is doing both." I sent the article to Hazel, adding, "Ready to help build that legacy?" Her response came immediately. "Born ready, Mom. Born ready." Looking out at the Shanghai skyline one last time, I thought about all the things Donald and Brooklyn had tried to take from me. My confidence, my company, my dignity. But in trying to tear me down, they'd actually forced me to stand taller than ever before. And I was just getting started. The morning of Hazel's first project presentation, I found myself sitting in my parked car outside Mitchell Properties, staring at an email that threatened to unravel everything we'd built. The sender was anonymous, but the message was clear. Either step down as CEO, or everyone learns the truth about how Mitchell Properties started. Attached were scanned documents from the company's founding, contracts, bank statements, and letters that painted a very different picture from the one I'd always believed. According to these papers, my father's initial funding hadn't come from family money as he'd claimed, but from a series of questionable loans and partnerships. "Mom?" Hazel's voice made me jump. She was standing by my car window looking concerned in her new business suit. "You've been sitting here for 15 minutes. Are you okay?" I quickly closed the email. "Just nervous for you, honey." But Hazel had always been too perceptive for her own good. "No, something's wrong. Tell me." I got out of the car, taking in my daughter's professional appearance, so different from the teenager who'd been eating ice cream and crying over college applications just months ago. "Let's focus on your presentation first. This is your day." The Youth Housing Initiative had become Hazel's passion project during her gap year. She'd spent months researching, planning, and meeting with community organizations. Today, she would present her proposal to the board. As we walked into the building, Penelope met us with her usual efficiency. "Hazel, the presentation room is ready. Kat, there's something you need to see first." In my office, Penelope handed me a manila envelope. "This came by courier this morning. It's from Donald's first wife." "Donald's what?" Hazel and I spoke in unison. Apparently, he was briefly married in college. Her name is Diana Foster. She's a federal judge now. My hands shook slightly as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a USB drive. "Dear Catherine, you don't know me, but I've been following your story. Donald hasn't changed. He did the same thing to me 25 years ago, using my family's connections to advance his career before moving on to someone he saw as more useful. I've kept documents from that time, including evidence of his early business practices. When I heard rumors about attempts to blackmail you with old company information, I thought you should have the whole picture." "Diana." "Mom?" Hazel's voice was quiet. "You should know. Madison sent me more screenshots last night. Brooklyn's been meeting with someone who used to work for Grandpa's old partners." The pieces clicked into place. The anonymous email, the threatened exposure. It was another of their schemes. But they'd underestimated us again. "Go get ready for your presentation," I told Hazel. "I'll handle this." Once she left, Penelope connected the USB drive to my computer. What we found was staggering. Evidence that Donald had been searching for damaging information about Mitchell Properties for years, even during our marriage. He'd known about my father's questionable early dealings and had kept that knowledge as insurance. "He's been planning this for a long time," Penelope murmured. "Yes, but he made a mistake." I picked up Diana's letter again. He forgot about the people he heard along the way. The board meeting room was packed when I arrived. Hazel was already setting up her presentation, looking nervous but determined. To my surprise, Kelly Jones was there, having flown in specially for this. Just as Hazel was about to begin, the door opened. Donald walked in, Brooklyn close behind him. "I believe as a major shareholder, I have a right to attend," he announced smoothly. I started to object, but Hazel cut in first. "Actually, Dad, I'm glad you're here. You should see what we've been building while you were busy plotting revenge." For the next hour, my daughter commanded the room. She presented detailed plans for affordable housing developments specifically designed for youth aging out of foster care, complete with educational and employment support programs. The projected costs were offset by innovative funding structures and community partnerships. "This isn't just about building homes," she concluded. "It's about building futures. And isn't that what Mitchell Properties was always supposed to be about?" The silence that followed was broken by Kelly Jones's applause. Others quickly joined in. I watched Donald's face as he realized that his daughter had just demonstrated more business acumen and genuine vision than he'd shown in years. But he wasn't done. During the question period, he spoke up. "This is all very idealistic, but let's talk about the real Mitchell Properties, about how it was really founded." "You mean the questionable loans?" I interrupted. "The partnership deals that skirted the law?" "Yes, let's talk about that." The room went silent again. I stood up, facing not just the board, but my past. My father made mistakes when starting this company. He took shortcuts he shouldn't have taken, trusted people he shouldn't have trusted. I've known this for exactly 3 hours, thanks to some attempted blackmail. I looked directly at Donald and Brooklyn. But here's the difference between then and now. We're going to fix those old wrongs. Every questionable deal will be reviewed, every debt repaid, every partnership restructured legally and ethically. Starting with the Youth Housing Initiative, Mitchell Properties will be known for building communities, not just buildings. "You'll destroy the company," Donald scoffed. "No," Kelly Jones spoke up. "She'll save its soul. This is why we chose to work with Mitchell Properties, not because of its past, but because of its future." The board voted unanimously to approve Hazel's project. As people filed out, congratulating her, I noticed Brooklyn lingering behind. "He was married before," she said quietly. "He never told me." "There's probably a lot he never told you." I gestured to where Donald was arguing with some board members. "You might want to think about that." Later that evening, as Hazel and I celebrated with our now traditional Chinese takeout, she asked, "Was it worth it? Coming clean about Grandpa?" I thought about Diana's letter, about the years Donald had spent collecting ammunition instead of building something meaningful. Secrets have power only when you're afraid of them. The moment you face them, they become just another part of your story. My phone buzzed. A message from Diana Foster. Saw the company announcement about the youth housing initiative. Your daughter seems remarkable. If you ever want to compare notes about Donald, I'm free for coffee. Hazel read the message over my shoulder and laughed. Dad's ex-wives club? Something like that. I smiled, then grew serious. You were amazing today. Your grandfather would have been proud. Because I'm fixing his mistakes? Because you're building something better than any of us imagined. We stayed up late talking about plans for the youth housing project, about Hazel's deferred acceptance to Columbia's business school, about all the possibilities ahead. Around midnight, Penelope sent a news alert. Mitchell Properties launches revolutionary youth housing initiative. Hazel Mitchell carries family legacy of innovation forward. Below was a photo of Hazel presenting to the board, looking confident and passionate. The article quoted Donald briefly, his words dripping with barely concealed bitterness. Mitchell Properties is certainly taking an unexpected direction. Yes, it was. And watching my daughter read the article, her face glowing with pride, I knew we were finally on the right path. Donald and Brooklyn's attempts to destroy us had only made us stronger, more determined to build something meaningful. The empire they'd tried to steal? It was nothing compared to the legacy we were creating. Life has a way of surprising you just when you think you've figured everything out. 6 months after Hazel's successful presentation, I was reviewing the latest plans for our youth housing project when Penelope burst into my office, her usual composure completely shattered. Brooklyn's at reception, she said breathlessly. She's crying. Says she needs to talk to you about Donald. Security doesn't know what to do. I set down my pen, remembering the last time I'd seen Brooklyn, at the board meeting, standing in Donald's shadow as usual. Send her up. Are you sure? Yes. I straightened my desk, more out of habit than necessity. And Penelope? Call Hazel. She should hear whatever this is. Brooklyn looked nothing like the polished PR executive I remembered. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her makeup streaked with tears. She clutched a manila envelope like a lifeline. I'm sorry, she blurted out as soon as she entered. I'm so sorry, Kat. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Sit down, I said, not unkindly. Tell me what's going on. She sank into the chair, hands shaking as she opened the envelope. I found these in Donald's study. He's been embezzling from my PR firm, using it to hide money from the divorce settlement. There's more. She pulled out more documents. He's been moving assets around since before you even found out about us. He has accounts I never knew about. I looked at the papers, bank statements, transfer records, emails discussing ways to hide assets. Why are you showing me this? Because I was wrong. Brooklyn's voice cracked. About everything. He's been lying to me just like he lied to you. Just like he lied to Diana. I'm just another stepping stone to him. The door opened and Hazel walked in. She stopped short at the sight of Brooklyn, her face hardening. What's she doing here? Showing us evidence that your father has been hiding money, I said quietly, and apparently having a moment of clarity. Brooklyn turned to Hazel, fresh tears spilling. I destroyed your family. I betrayed my best friend. And for what? For a man who's been planning to betray me too? Hazel's expression didn't soften, but she sat down. Why now? Why come clean? Brooklyn pulled out her phone, showing us a photo. It was Donald at dinner with a young woman, looking very cozy. This was taken yesterday. She's 26, works for one of our biggest clients. History repeats itself, I guess. I thought about Diana's letter, about the pattern that had started decades ago. What do you want from us, Brooklyn? Nothing. She wiped her eyes. I thought you should know. About the money. About everything. I'm going to the authorities about the embezzlement. I can't let him keep doing this. After Brooklyn left, Hazel and I sat in silence for a moment. Finally, she said, Do you believe her? About Donald? Yes. About her remorse? I shrugged. Does it matter? I guess not. Hazel picked up one of the documents Brooklyn had left. So, what do we do now? Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Kelly Jones. Catherine? I just heard from the Liu group. They want to accelerate the expansion plans. How soon can you be in Shanghai? I looked at Hazel, an idea forming. Actually, Kelly, I think I need to send someone else first. Someone who knows the youth housing initiative inside and out. Hazel's eyes widened as she realized what I was suggesting. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. While our lawyers dealt with the evidence Brooklyn had provided, Hazel prepared for her first international business trip. The timing worked perfectly. She would spend the summer in Shanghai, learning about the Asian market, before starting at Columbia in the fall. "Are you sure about this?" she asked the night before her flight. We were in our kitchen, sharing our traditional Chinese takeout. "Trusting me with something this big?" "I trust you more than anyone," I replied. "Besides, you're not doing it alone. Kelly will be there, and I'll join you in 2 weeks. After you finish dealing with Dad's mess?" "After I finish transforming his mess into something positive." I showed her the plans I'd been working on. "We're going to turn the money he tried to hide into a foundation, separate from Mitchell Properties, focused entirely on youth education and housing support." Hazel studied the documents, her expression thoughtful. "Using his hidden money to help people? He'll hate that." "Yes, he will." She grinned. "Perfect." The next morning, as I watched Hazel confidently walking through airport security, I felt a strange mix of pride and nostalgia. My phone buzzed, a message from Diana Foster. "Heard about Brooklyn's revelation. Having coffee with her tomorrow. Want to join? Some conversations are better had among those who understand." I thought about it, then replied, "Save me a seat." Later that day, I received an unexpected visitor, Robert Maxwell. He looked uncomfortable in my office. Nothing like the confident man who'd tried to strong-arm me months ago. "I'll be brief," he said. "I'm retiring. Maxwell Development Group needs new leadership, someone with vision and integrity." He slid a folder across my desk. "I'd like to discuss a merger, a real one this time, with you in charge." I opened the folder, scanning the proposal. It was genuinely fair, even generous. "Why now?" "Because you've proven everyone wrong. About business, about leadership, about what really matters." He gestured to the youth housing project plans on my wall. "My own daughter is about to age out of foster care. Adopted her too late for the system to help much. What you and Hazel are building, it matters." I studied him, seeing beyond the business facade to the father beneath. "Let me guess. Hazel met your daughter during her research?" He nodded, looking surprised. "How did you know?" "Because that's who she is. Who we are now. We don't just build buildings anymore." After he left, I stood at my office window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Donald was probably plotting his next move, unaware that his carefully hidden money would soon be helping the very people he'd looked down on for years. My phone buzzed with a message from Hazel, a selfie of her and Kelly Jones at the Shanghai airport, both smiling. The caption read, "Ready to expand the empire. The right way." I smiled, thinking of how far we'd come from that night I sat crying in my closet. Donald had been right about one thing. I did need to face reality, just not the reality he'd imagined. The reality was that sometimes losing everything you thought you wanted leads you to everything you were meant to be. Looking at Hazel's photo again, I felt a sense of peace. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were thriving, building something meaningful, something that would last long after the drama and pain had faded. And really, isn't that the best revenge of all? On the morning of Hazel's departure for Columbia, I found myself in an unexpected place, sharing breakfast with Diana Foster and Brooklyn at our local diner. The past year had taught me that life's greatest surprises often come in the form of unlikely friendships. "She got the last laugh, you know," Diana said, stirring her coffee. "Hazel's project is exactly what Mitchell Properties should have been doing all along." Brooklyn nodded, looking more like her old self, but with a new humility. "The youth center opens next week, doesn't it?" "Yes," I smiled, checking my phone for the latest update from the construction team. "And the Shanghai expansion is ahead of schedule." The door chimed, and we all looked up to see Donald walking in. He stopped short at the sight of us. His ex-wife, his ex-mistress, and his first ex-wife, all sharing breakfast. The look on his face was priceless. "Ladies," he said stiffly, starting to turn away. "Donald!" Diana called out, her judge's voice carrying across the diner. "Join us. We were just discussing your contribution to youth housing." He froze. "My what?" "The money you tried to hide," Brooklyn said quietly. "It's doing wonderful things now." I watched him process this, saw the muscle in his jaw twitch. Finally, he walked over to our table. "You had no right." "Actually, we had every right," I interrupted. "The money you embezzled from Brooklyn's firm? That's been repaid, with interest. The accounts you hid during our divorce? All legally seized and put to good use. The Donald Mitchell Foundation is already helping dozens of young people start new lives. You named it after me?" His voice was a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Hazel's idea," I smiled. "She said it was perfect. Using your name to do exactly what you always refused to do. Help people who weren't born into privilege." He pulled up a chair, uninvited, his face dark. "You think you've won, don't you? All of you. But you have no idea what it takes to run a company like Mitchell Properties. The deals I made, the connections, the lies you told," Diana interjected. "The people you used? Donald? Look around. Every woman at this table succeeded despite you, not because of you." "And the company?" Brooklyn added. "It's more successful now than it ever was under your leadership." Donald started to respond, but his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I saw his face pale slightly. "Excuse me, I need to take this." After he hurried away, Diana raised an eyebrow. "What was that about?" I sipped my coffee. "Probably the Maxwell merger announcement. It goes public today." The rest of breakfast passed pleasantly, 3 women sharing stories of healing and growth. As we were leaving, Brooklyn touched my arm. "Kat, thank you for showing me there's life after Donald." "You showed yourself," I replied. "We all did." At home, Hazel was doing her final packing, her room a maze of boxes and suitcases. "Mom, perfect timing. Help me decide which photos to take." We sat on her bed, going through old family pictures. There were so many memories. Holidays, birthdays, school events. In most of them, Donald stood front and center, always positioning himself as the star. "You know what I just realized?" Hazel said, holding up a recent photo of us at the youth center construction site. "We're smiling more now. Real smiles." She was right. The difference was striking. Not just in our expressions, but in our posture, our confidence. My phone buzzed with a message from Penelope. "Turn on the business news. Now." We rushed downstairs just in time to see Donald being interviewed about the Maxwell merger. He was trying to spin it as his idea, claiming he'd been working toward this for years. Then the interviewer dropped the bomb. "But Mr. Mitchell, according to the official announcement, you'll have no role in the merged company. In fact, your former wife, Catherine Mitchell, will be CEO, with your daughter Hazel joining the board after completing her business degree." Any comment? The camera caught his expression perfectly, the moment he realized he'd truly lost control of everything he'd tried to possess. Hazel turned off the TV, grinning. "Think he'll ever learn?" "Probably not," I admitted. "But that's not our problem anymore." We spent the rest of the morning getting her ready for the move to New York. As I helped her pack her business suits, so different from the teenage clothes she'd worn just a year ago, she asked, "Do you ever regret it? Finding out about Dad and Brooklyn?" I thought about it carefully. "I regret the pain it caused you. But the rest? No. Sometimes you need to lose what you thought you wanted to find what you really need. Like realizing you're actually a badass CEO. Like realizing we're both stronger than we knew." The drive to the airport was filled with plans and promises. Weekly video calls, updates about the foundation, her upcoming winter break. At the security gate, she hugged me tight. "I love you, Mom. Thanks for showing me what real success looks like." "Real success?" "Yeah," she smiled. "It's not about power or money or getting revenge. It's about building something that matters." After she disappeared through security, I checked my phone to find a message from Kelly Jones. "Just saw Donald's interview. Having dinner with the Liu Group tonight. They're fascinated by how you handled everything. Want to discuss expanding the youth program across Asia." Another message popped up, this one from Robert Maxwell. "My daughter wants to intern at the foundation next summer. Says Hazel inspired her to make a difference. And finally, an email from George Harrison. Your father would be so proud. Not of the buildings or the deals, but of the legacy you and Hazel are creating. This is what Mitchell Properties was always meant to be. Driving home, I passed the construction site for our first youth center. The sign out front read, "The Donald Mitchell Foundation presents New Beginnings Youth Housing" in bold letters. Below, in smaller text, "A Mitchell Properties Community Initiative." I smiled, remembering Donald's face at breakfast. He'd tried to break us, to diminish us, to control us. Instead, he'd forced us to discover our true strength. And now his name would forever be attached to the very thing he'd dismissed as idealistic and unnecessary. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. That evening, in my quiet house, I opened my laptop to find an email from Hazel. Made it to New York. Roommate seems nice. Already planning how to incorporate the Shanghai model into my business school projects? P.S. Did you see Dad's interview? Think he finally realized what you always knew? The Mitchell and Mitchell Properties was never about him. I started to reply, then paused, looking around my home office. The walls were covered with plans and photos. The youth center, the Shanghai expansion, Hazel's presentation, the merger announcement. Each one represented not just a business success, but a step in our journey from victims to victors. You're right, I wrote back. It was never about him. It was about us, about who we chose to become after the storm passed. Love you, honey. Change the world. As I hit send, I felt a deep sense of peace. Donald had said I needed to face reality, but he'd been wrong about what that reality was. The reality was that sometimes people betray you, hurt you, try to break you. But if you're strong enough to stand up, brave enough to start over, and wise enough to learn from the pain, you can build something far more beautiful than what you lost. That's not just success. That's legacy.